everyone, welcome back to Yellow Cottage Soapery. This is going to be a little bit different type of video tonight, but it's one that has been requested many times. I've been asked if I could do a beginner soap making video, and so I went ahead and came up with a recipe that I thought would be easy for a beginner to work with, but also produce a really nice bar of soap. And the recipe has 4 different oils. I will be leaving the recipe in the description box below, and as well as telling you the amounts and everything as I'm measuring it out. Now, the first thing that you want to do, obviously, is I'm going to be measuring out my water and my lye. So safety is obviously the most important thing. You want gloves, goggles, and long sleeves. Now you notice in some of my videos I don't always wear long sleeves. I get really warm when I'm soap making, and I wear t-shirts a lot, but I've been soaping for a really long time and I'm very cautious with what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my goggles and my gloves because I'm going to be measuring out the lye solution, and I do that first so that the lye has time to cool down as I'm mixing up my oils. Now, you can mix this up a day ahead of time if you want to. I personally soap at room temperature, so I a lot of times will mix it up the night before I'm going to make the soap, and then it just sits in on my soap table, and I have to clean my goggles so that when I make it, it's room temperature. I've stated before in my videos, sometimes I will throw my oils in the microwave for a minute just to get them more fluid and easier to work with. Some people like to soap at 120. Some people swear by that. Some people, you know, it's all based on what you prefer. But I'm just going to tell you how I do it and what works for me. It may not work for you, but I feel that this is the easiest method if you're a beginner. So I'll go ahead and mix up my lye solution. This recipe calls for 4.9 ounces of water. Now, when you're doing your recipe, you can do it in ounces or grams. I started out doing it in ounces, and I've just always stuck with it. I don't like change. Some people say grams are more accurate. I've never had a problem doing it in ounces. So my scale here, which is, yes, a little grungy, but it works just fine, and it is set to measure ounces. So I don't know if you can see the OZ right there for ounces. So you need a container for your lye solution that's stainless steel or a heavy duty plastic. You can use Pyrex, the glass containers, but you want to make sure it is suitable for the temperature of the lye. So I have these little stainless steel carafes. I got them on Amazon or eBay. They weren't very expensive. We're going to be just making a 1-pound batch, so I'm not going to need a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here, and then you just hit the tare button, takes it down to 0. And you always want to use distilled water because it has no impurities or anything like that in it. So we're going to measure out 4.95 ounces. I'm not used to doing really small amounts. This is kind of weird. Whoops. And I went over a little. Totally fine. Just put a little bit back, and it's exactly 4.95. Now, if you're a beginner, like me, I would just go ahead and pour the measure and pour the lye into this. But if you, like I just went over with the water, when you want to put the lye in, obviously you can't put it back. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend measuring out your lye separately. So go ahead and put your water down. And where's my little thing? I'm just going to measure out the lye in this little container and pour over into that. So again, you tare it. And I want 2.10 ounces of lye. So very carefully, with your safety gear on, measure out 2.10. Now, if you ever see a recipe online, even this recipe I'm giving you, go ahead and run it through the soap calculator or the lye calculator and double check everything and make sure it's correct before you do it. Don't always just assume the recipe is, you know, what it says, or, you know, the amounts are correct. Because it's very important to be accurate. Okay, so there's our lye solution. So I'm just going to turn that off for a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and very carefully pour in the lye. You know, sometimes a few of them stick in there. It's no big deal. Now this solution right here is heating up, so you just want to stir it. I can feel the heat coming off it, so you know, you want to be careful you don't splash it. Just really gently stirring it. Okay, so this is my lye solution. I'm just going to set it aside and let it cool off. Okay, the next thing we're going to work on is the oils for the recipe. Now, this recipe is calling for 4 ounces of palm oil. Now, this is the palm oil, and I went ahead and just melted this down a little bit because it was really solid. And I already measured out 4 ounces into this container. And the reason I did that is just so I wouldn't have to stop the camera, go warm up the oil, all that. So I already measured out the same way I did the others. You know, you put it on and you tear the container, you tear it when the container's on there, so you're not using that as weight. You go ahead and pour it in your oil. So right now, I already have the 4 ounces of palm oil, and I'm going to add coconut oil to it. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to heat this up in the microwave for the coconut oil to melt. And the palm oil is still a little tacky, it's still a little thicker, so I also want to melt that in with the coconut oil. The other 2 oils are liquid oils, and I'll measure those separately and then I will add them together. So I'm just going to turn this on. Now all my oils and everything, butters that I get, are in bulk. So I got small of everything to do this for the purpose of this video. So we're at 0 right now. So we can go ahead and do our coconut oil. This you can find at Walmart or any grocery store. I'm just going to go ahead, and this is in a little bit of chunks because it's pretty cold. So I'm going to need 4 ounces of coconut oil. So I'm going to start adding it in. Now, I wouldn't make soap without coconut oil, and I think it's one of the main ingredients in soap, but you don't want to do too much because it can be drying to your skin. So that's important to note as well. Okay, we're at 4. So I'm going to pause the camera just so I can stick this in the microwave and melt it down. It won't take very long. I would say a minute maybe, and then you can kind of stir it. You don't want to overheat it, but I will be right back. Okay, it took a minute in the microwave, and then I just stirred the little pieces that were in there, and so everything is melted. Now I'm going to do the 2 liquid oils. I'm going to put it into this container because this is the container that I will add the coconut and palm oil to. So I'm going to go ahead and put my liquid oils in here. And you're just going to put your container and tare it. Now I'm just using olive oil. It's just pure olive oil. And this is going to be 6 ounces. And this will help your recipe. Adding a little bit higher amount of liquid oils is going to make your recipe easier to work with and a little bit more fluid. Okay, there's 6 of that. Now with the next one, which is castor oil, it's a very thick oil, but it's great for It gives your bar bubble, you know, a lot of bubbles. So I just want 1 ounce of this. You don't want to use too much of this because it'll make your soap slimy. So now at this point, if you feel more comfortable, measure your castor oil in a separate container if you're worried that you might, you know, measure too much or whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and add the 1 ounce to this. And it does, it's not like other liquid oils. It's so thick that you don't really add much and it goes up quite a bit. So you have to watch this one. Okay. It's at 7, so now what I'm going to do, I don't need my scale anymore. Well, I do to do my fragrance oil, but I'll bring it back in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and add the palm and coconut into this container. Now you do want to scrape out as much as you can, not just to be thrifty, but because, you know, you're working with pretty accurate measurements, so you don't want to leave, you know, a lot of the oil or anything like that behind. You want to get as much of it in as you can. Obviously there's going to be a little bit, but that's no big deal. Okay, so now I'm going to set this aside. We have the lye mixed up, we have the oils mixed up. The next thing I'm going to show you is your fragrance oil. Now I chose eucalyptus and spearmint because I don't know, it's one I've worked with a million times, and I know that it plays pretty nice, and you have a little bit of time to play. Now, with wherever you buy your fragrance oil, make sure you check in the description of the fragrance oil. It will tell you the percentage the maximum allowed that you can use in each application. It'll tell you for soaps, it'll tell you for other bath and body products what your percentage is. So eucalyptus and spearmint is 5%. I feel like I'm going to have the hiccups. It's 5%. So you want to figure out 5% of your oil weight. So the oil weight of this is 15 ounces. No, it's 15 ounces. So we want to do 5% of that. And for some, I already calculated it in my head to be 0.8%. So just take 15 and divide it by, I did 16, so I'm just going to recalculate this. I thought that recipe had 16. I have a new phone, so I'm still trying to figure out where everything is. Okay, so what you want to do with your, to figure out your fragrance oil is this particular recipe has 15 ounces of oil. Okay, we're just doing the oil weight, not including the lye. So you have 15 ounces. What you want to do is find out your allowable maximum usage for your fragrance oil. Now, once you get more into soap making, you will see some fragrances are much stronger, and you would want to use maybe a little bit less of that. But this particular one is 5%. So if you do 15% or 15 ounces of oil, you're going to multiply that by 0.05, and that's going to give you 0.75. So we have to measure out, I'm just using this little container. Okay, it's already tared, so we're going to do 0.75, and that is going to be how much fragrance oil we can use in this recipe, and that's 0.75. So that's measured out. We'll just set that aside. So now everything is ready to so everything just needs to sit. And the oils and lye need to cool off, and then I will be back for the next step, which is mixing everything up. Okay, my oils and my lye solution have cooled, so we're going to go ahead with the next step, which is mixing the two together. Now, you want to go ahead and put your stick blender in and just tap it, and you can see the bubbles come up so that you're not incorporating air bubbles into your mixture. And you don't want to turn your stick blender on while you're adding the lye. You want to wait and just go ahead and carefully pour your lye right down the shaft of your stick blender. Now, I'm not adding any clay or any cream or anything like that to this. This is just a basic recipe for beginners, and I would suggest that you hold off on the additives and all of that until you get this part down. So now your lye is added. You want to go ahead and you can use high or medium on your stick blender. I always just use high. And you want to incorporate just until you can't see a film of oil on the top. It's easy to over stick blend, but remember, the more you stick blend, the thicker your trace is going to be. So right now, this is a thin trace, and so we're going to go ahead and pour off. I'm going to do just 2 colors here because I thought just because it's a beginner recipe doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to do colors. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of it off. And now, as far as mixing up your colors ahead of time, you can do that according to, I don't know who, it's certain amount of oil, a certain amount of mica. I don't usually do that with mica. I will pre-mix if I'm using a pigment or a chrome oxide. I think it's called an oxide. So with this, I'm just going to go ahead and I have already mixed up my titanium dioxide, and that's another one that I'm not going to show you the mixing of that just because mine is already pre-mixed. I do it ahead of time in a bottle. But you will do that based on the directions that you get from where you purchase it from. You can get titanium dioxide that is water soluble or oil soluble, and it will tell you the amounts of oil or water to add to mix that up. And it's handy to have a little mini a little blender like this. This one is just for my titanium dioxide. You can see it's got some on it, to mix up your colorants if you choose to do that. Now, your titanium dioxide, I always pre-mix it. For a long time I didn't. I would just stick blend it in, and it was totally fine. I just had to stick blend a little bit more than normal, and my soap batter was thicker. So now I use water soluble, so I already have some pre-mixed in this, and then I'm just going to use maybe a half a teaspoon of the colored mica, which I picked Maniacal Pea. So we also have our fragrance oil, and you can see I have not added it yet. Now, a lot of people add it in after they do their lye solution, they'll go ahead and add their fragrance. I always wait. This is just personal preference, and I mix it in after I get my colors mixed. Just because I do a lot of fragrance testing with different scents, and I don't ever know how they're going to react. So I've just kind of gotten in the habit of doing it that way. But if you do have a fragrance that is, doesn't speed up trace, you can add it to the whole mixture. I will wait and do it after my colors just because that's how I always do that. So you want your stick blender in the one that you're going to do the lightest color in. I think I'll do the lighter one to be the smaller amount. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in a little bit of titanium dioxide. Now again, I'm sorry I don't have the measurements for these. I just always eyeball it. And we're going to go ahead and add about a half a teaspoon in there. Your colorants will also come with usage amounts. But I guess because I've been doing it so long, I just eyeball it. So you just want to kind of blend it in. You don't want to over blend. It's easy to just want to keep pushing that button, but the more you do, remember, the thicker your batter. And it's okay unless you want to do some kind of swirling, or then you want to keep your trace as thin as you can. I'm just cleaning this out a little bit and setting it aside. We're going to go ahead and mix the other one up. Okay. Alright, so now we don't need our stick blender anymore, unless you, at this point, put in a fragrance and it rices or whatever, but we're not worried about that because I already know how this is going to be, so I just add the most amount to this. Be sure to scrape down your sides so you're getting it all incorporated. And then I'm going to do the rest in here. Okay, so I'm just going to clean this up so I don't spill it. Alright, so now you have your mold, and you can pour it any way you want to. I usually, not always, but I'll pour some of my base color in. And keep alternating, or you can pour them all in at the same time, however you want to do it. This is where the originality comes in. Alright, so I want to save some for the top, so I'm going to do just a little bit more green. And then I guess we'll swirl it. Now you can do a hanger. Just want to tap it down lightly and get any air bubbles out. I guess we will use a chopstick. So just swirl it around a little bit. You don't want to over swirl because then it'll all muddy together and it won't have any swirls. Tap it down again after you pour it. And now I'm going to put, the rest of my green on the top. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and add some white. Alright, so I'm going to tap it down again, and then I'm just going to use the same chopstick. I want to kind of get a little of the green up, so I want a little more of the green to show. So I'm just going to kind of just swirl it around on the top. And tap it down again, and there you have it, your first loaf of soap. And I will be back tomorrow to show you guys the cut and unmolding. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm going to go ahead and unmold the soap we made last night. It's been about 18 hours, and I'll give you a little tip. About half an hour ago, it pulled away from the sides, but I could tell once I released it that a little bit of soap might stick in the corners because it was a little bit soft. Now you can go ahead and wait another 5 or 6 hours, like a full 24 hours, and it should be fine to unmold. But I wanted to get it unmolded so I could upload the video. So I just stuck it in the freezer for about 15 minutes so that when I unmold it, it doesn't leave any, or it doesn't ding the corners up. So you just kind of pull away. With these silicone molds, it's really easy to unmold. You just pull away from the sides and you just want to kind of see it release. This is still a little soft. I can feel it under my fingers, but I think it'll come out. Okay, I'll just try that again. My camera said the memory was, on the thing was full, so I had to erase a couple things. But you just go ahead and feel it release and let it slide out. And as you can see, you have a perfect little loaf of soap. So we're just going to pull in the cutter now. If you don't have a cutter like this, it's not a big deal. I didn't have one for a long time. You can freehand cut it with a knife the best you can, or tilt my camera a little bit, or you can buy one of those $10 cheese. It's a cheese slicer that has the wire on it, and mark it off with tape so you get equal size bars, and just use one of those to cut it. I didn't have one of these for a while, and I didn't cut straight bars, and it was okay. So there's the first one. It's just very simple but very pretty. So you can make just 2-color soap. You can make a 1-color soap with no swirl. Just to start out with. And you can cut the end off if you want to. I really don't feel the need to. I think the ends look perfect, so I usually don't unless they're dinged up. And there's another bar. So I hope this video helped some of you guys that were interested in trying soap making but are scared of excuse me, using a soap calculator, or you know, we're kind of afraid of the process. Feel free to leave me questions down below if you have any, and I do my best to answer everybody. I have a new phone, and I've noticed that I'm not getting all of the messages that are sent to, that are posted on YouTube, unless I actually go to the video and look. And when questions are posted on really old videos, I don't go back and look at them. So hopefully I can figure out why my phone isn't notifying me when I have messages. But I do try to reply to everybody, at least as much as I can. But I hope this was helpful, and let me know if there's any other videos or experiments or anything like that that you guys are interested in me doing. I'm always looking for new ideas for videos, and I hope you all have happy holidays, and I will see you after the first of the year. Thanks for watching.